Emanating from the piney woods of East Texas, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. RLG has been playing music since the mid-70s. Ricky Lynn Gregg was the very first country artist to have a website and the first Native American country artist signed to a major label. In the 1990s, he had count them, six top 10 CMT videos. He had 3 studio albums, including one that reached the top 40 on the Billboard charts in 1992. He has had 3 top 75 Billboard singles, including the number 36 If I Had a Cheating Heart in 1993. And of course, almost 30 years later, he is the current and reigning 2017 ETX Music Guitarist of the Year. Guys, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Careful what you wish for, it might come true. And if it does, what are you gonna do? Welcome to the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here with another phenomenal episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show presented by ETX ROCKS. This is episode 4. Already 4 months into this project with my good buddy Ricky Lynn Gregg. And today's show is going to be a little difficult, I think, for both of us because the music community as a whole, but the Texas music community in particular, has lost one of the most legendary musicians that Texas has ever produced in Vinnie Paul. And of course, Ricky grew up with the Abbott brothers and Jerry Abbott, their dad, and the whole family. So we would be remiss if we didn't mention Vinnie and Darrell and Jerry and all those guys here on the show. So I guess we'll start. I mean, first of all, I'll let folks know out there that our special guest this week is no stranger to me. I've known him for about 3 years. He's the reason for my fiance being here. Well, one of 2 reasons why she's here, I would imagine.
Good reasons.
Yeah, and that's Red Leone, the 2017 East Texas Steel Guitarist of the Year. He's been playing steel guitar since the Revolutionary War, it seems.
Well, let's say he picked up a guitar at 10 and started playing a guitar like a lap steel, glide steel at 14.
Right.
Phenomenal.
And he was
ability.
born in the 30s, so
Yes.
he's been playing steel guitar longer than either one of us has been
His
alive.
entire life.
Yeah. So just a really intriguing and fascinating interview between Ricky and Red Leone a little bit later in the show. But let's talk a little bit about the Abbott brothers and how you grew up with them and became really close with Vinnie and Darrell, and especially their dad, Jerry, who, you know, no father ever wants to bury their children, and Jerry's had to do it twice now.
I met let me tell you how I met the Abbott boys.
Yeah.
In and out of Pantego Studio.
Right.
And Jerry was the lead engineer. Jerry Hudson, which was the manager of Savvy, was the studio manager. Jerry, their father, was a great engineer. He got a divorce, and he came to me one day I was a staff singer. You know, people bring in their things, and I would sing music to make up melodies and sing
Like demos and stuff like that? Yeah.
And he came to me and he said, listen, man, I'm getting a divorce. My wife's in Abilene. And I can get a babysitter, or if you don't mind, can my 2 kids stay here? One's 12, one's 14. It's like, no problem, you know, I mean, no problem.
So you're probably only like 18, 17, or 18
I'm about
yourself,
20.
right?
I'm about 20, 21.
Okay.
And I said, sure. Well, Darrell props himself right in front of a couch with a big window from the control room to the recording room. And I finally said, stop. Could you bring him in here and put some cans on and let him be with me? Because he's staring a hole and grinning. And that was Darrell.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful relationship. We had a club called Savvy's. They were our opening act until they become a force of their own with other singers.
Donnie Hart being one.
Right. Yeah. And can't think of Terry's last name, but Terry was their other singer. Then they got Phil.
Yep.
But by that time, man, they'd taken off. But they never, Vinnie or Darrell never lost sight of me. And when Darrell was murdered in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, I got a call from my webmaster, who was from Columbus, who heard it on a scanner, and I was able to talk to Vinnie before the cops got there.
Wow.
and for 90 seconds he just rambled. He cried. He couldn't figure out what.
Because this happened right in front of him on stage.
Right in front of him.
Yeah.
And had it not been for crew members and audience participants, a lot of people were killed. But they jumped on his back, and he still created mayhem, shucked one guy, and that's when they got the security guy to get him. Talking to Vinnie later, he says, "Ricky, I barely remember talking to you, but I remember saying, I got to go, the cops are here." I went and hung out with Vinnie, and Eddie Van Halen said it best at Dime's funeral. He said, I cannot imagine playing guitar without my brother.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the same sentiment that Vinnie had about Darrell. Even though he had Damage Plan and Hell Yeah. Mm-hmm. Him leaving this world at 54, he joins his brother now. And there's a quote that Jerry told me right after Dime's demise. It was, I don't have to worry about being that old tour bus, because tour buses are dangerous. They look good on the outside, but they beat you to death on the inside. But Vinnie always went out of his way after Darrell was gone, and would always stop in and see me. And he would just tell me how much Darrell loved me, and how much he loved me, and how much his father admired me. And I'm not saying this for kudos. I've never said anything about the brothers because I didn't want that notoriety. But since Vinnie is gone, Vinnie would see my name on a marquee going through Shreveport and stop in a casino.
And Vinnie was notorious for doing that.
Yeah.
Vinnie was he was just a huge music fan as well as being a musician.
Fan. Yeah.
And one of the legendary musicians of our time. But he was legendary for just showing up at a buddy's show.
At a buddy's show.
Out of the blue, you might think he was playing in Vancouver or something,
Yeah.
and he'd show up in Kilgore, Texas or something. Yeah. And a lot of times he'd be in character too.
Yes.
He didn't care if people knew.
That's who he was.
Yeah,
He lived it 24/7.
He never hid who he was to anyone. The one time I got to meet him, I hate to say this now because I didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
I found out later, and boy, I kicked myself a lot. But I'm glad.
He'd be much ready to have.
Well, in a way, I'm glad I didn't know because I probably would have acted differently.
He's humble like that too.
Yeah. But yeah, we met him. I think it was at either the Memphis or Players in Longview. He had showed up for a metal night.
Yeah.
And just out of the blue, and someone said, "Hey, you got to meet Vinnie Paul," and I was just like, "Okay, cool,
Yeah.
very neat." And so
Probably
I googled his name later, and I kicked myself. It's like, man, are you kidding?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you looking back to Dimebag and everything that happened with him, and that changed the world in so many different ways, not just musically, but the way that security is now at concerts and things like that has changed because of that.
And no more coming through the backstage anymore without somebody going, whoa. I would like to say this about Vinnie.
Yeah.
One of my most proudest moments after Dime, and I tried to hang out with him as much as I could. He had a nice bar in Dallas. We had our own little corner. But he came to Mickey Gilley's in Dallas when he was there for a while. He brought his entourage, and I had my entourage in this big building backstage. And he did a project, him and Dime, with David Allan Coe.
Yeah.
It was called Rebel to Rebel.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we went out in his truck, out of the bar, and we listened to this thing blasting. And David Allan Coe, he's immortal, man. I mean, I love this guy. He's 100 and still giving his all. But I hope the world gets to hear this. But he says, "Ricky, we're talking about taking this thing on tour." I said, "Man, that'd be awesome." He goes, "I'd like you to take Dime's place." I was like,
wow.
"Vinnie, how do I do that?" He says, "Just shut up and turn the amp on as loud as you go and play." And I took that as a great compliment. Just shut up, turn the amp on, turn it up and play. We're going to do it. And of course, it never happened.
Right.
But that was, man, he could have given me $1 million. It was the same thing.
So what was it like for you as someone who was a little bit older than them, kind of watching them come into their own underneath?
Yeah.
Because back in those days, Dallas-Fort Worth was not really a metal hotbed.
No.
There was a lot of blues, a lot of 70s, 80s
Like
era country.
hard rock.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody ever really took that heavy step to the next level like
They were the
Pantera
first.
did.
Yeah, they were the first.
You know, and it was neat as a fan because, you know, Texas music has always been so widespread, so versatile, so diverse.
Yeah.
So to see someone kind of tackle that kind of music from a Texas standpoint
Sure.
and bringing it to the world.
Right.
What was that like as someone who may have mentored them a little bit?
Well, you know, we worked out of the same studio. Their father was their engineer. Their father was my engineer, along with my manager, who was an engineer, but not like Jerry.
Right.
I was proud for them. Early on, they had a genuine love. I mean, just they were full of love. Now they had two other band members. One was lovable and loved. The other was from another state. Just didn't have the same jive. You know,
Right.
doesn't make him a bad person. I'm just saying.
And then when they first started, it was a completely different sound too.
Yes.
Because their first vocalist, who's been on our program,
Yeah.
Donnie Hart,
Yeah.
good friend of ours, he wasn't exactly a metal singer.
Right.
And it was when Phil came aboard that sound really kind of
Right.
took shape
Yeah.
and catapulted them to that next
Right.
level. So it was kind
Mosh
of neat.
pits.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
But
it's
looking
like
back at
Anger
it,
and Pain, baby.
yeah.
And-
Looking back at it, though, as a fan, it was kind of cool to see that evolution process
Yeah.
from one singer to the next, where the brothers are kind of staying the same,
Right.
but pushing the envelope a little bit more once they found out, hey, this singer is a little bit different.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, let me say this. Vinnie and Dime never varied their love for me. They'd call me at 2 or 3 in the morning. Go, wake up, you know. They had quite a vocabulary.
Rock and roll.
And it was just love.
Yeah.
And sometimes one or two didn't love me. And they would do things on pictures and walls.
Yeah.
But Vinnie and Dime would always rectify it. They'd always go, hey, look, bring them all out. Oh, we're all buddies. We'll shoot.
And that happens
shots.
a lot in the business where
Yeah.
you'll fall out, you'll have little spats
Yeah.
or whatever. But
They
one
always
thing I've
have-
noticed in Texas is that everybody always ends up back together.
Yeah.
You know?
And they love me, and I love them, and I rooted for them. Dime would bring his mother out to a country bar I was playing when I was trying to go country. You need to have a cowboy hat on, a starched Wrangler shirt, starched breeches, and ostrich boots, just so he could fit in with a purple goatee.
And all that chest hair.
Good
Lord.
But I love him, and I miss Vinnie because Vinnie never forgot me.
When was the last time you talked to him?
The last time I talked to him was about 5 years ago in a casino. Saw my name on the marquee, came in. Said, I just came by to see you.
Was that in
man."
Mississippi?
That was in Louisiana.
Okay.
And that's the last time I saw him. But, you know, it seems like yesterday.
Yeah.
Because he's so big, you know, everybody, you know, there was hundreds of people following backstage. We go,
Yeah.
whoa. But the neat thing about Vinnie, he had smarts. You know, Dime was, that's why they loved him so much, because he was like, smiles, I don't care, let's go. There was no story when you drink a lot, you know, you get anxiety problems. So he asked one of his buddies from another big time band, I won't mention their names. He goes, man, I've been having anxiety. And he goes, me too. I went to the doctor. And he goes, well, what'd you do for yours, Dime? He goes, well, I just kept drinking.
Yeah.
You got to love that about him, right? I
Right.
did the same thing. But
Vinny's been on record here recently too of how rock and roll has changed over the years. Where
Yeah.
you know the rock and roll or the rock and roll stars are playing video games more and spending more time with their family and less drinking. And
yes,
that's Vinny's deal. Like that's what he liked to do. He liked to unwind. He liked to go out drinking.
that's what we all did, you know.
Yeah.
And I got to say
and that changed, and he was lost.
Yeah.
You know.
I would assume, and I say this about Vinny, he was a businessman.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
His father was an astute businessman, which, may I say this about Jerry Abbott, he was the pianist in Urban Cowboy.
Yep.
You know, he played, you know, in the background as they played on film. So he was a very talented guy, quick to yes, quick to no about a track. He really worked hard with everybody he worked with. So those guys coming out to be superior, excellent, to devise their own music. A lot of their father said, "Yeah, go push that way."
Yeah.
Because you know Savvy was ahead of them, and we were kind of like the glam band, you know.
Mhm.
Journey, don't stop believing. And then they come out with
Amazing stuff, man.
Nobody did that.
No.
Nobody did it. And I think
Trailblazing.
you know, and Anthrax was one of the bands that really got into them at first. His friends like, God, you guys are awesome. And then, you know, it just took off from there. And
I think Pantera will always be mentioned in that Mount Rushmore of metal bands that kind of blazed a trail for what we hear nowadays. And you know, there's so many different subgenres of metal now, and I think that's all because of bands like Pantera.
absolutely.
You know, just kind of creating their own little lanes within the music. And that wasn't there before the Abbott brothers.
No. And Dallas Fort Worth, as much time as I spent there, I was a local something. These guys were local international superstars. There were more tattoos and names of those two guys, or all four guys, because Rex is a good guy.
Yeah.
Rex came to me 3 years ago. He says, Ricky, and you know, Rex had some health problems, the bassist, but we all kind of grew up together through lead singers,
Right.
the three. And Rex says, come out to my truck. He goes, listen to my new project. I was playing in Fort Worth, Black Horse Saloon. He goes, listen to this. And man, it was off the chain, man. It was pow. And he goes, turn it down. He says, man, I got to tell you this. Dime really loved you. And, you know, it made me feel good. And I felt that. But for Rex to say it, it made me feel
It
good.
was validation for you.
And, you know, and Vinnie did the same. But Vinnie, losing him at 54, and I say this unknowingly, but I can't help but think when he lost his brother, he just found a slow way to meet him
Yeah.
in heaven.
Right.
And that would be taking 2 aspirin a day.
So what's your message for Jerry if he were to see this show?
My message with Jerry, I love you. I'm sorry, but I know how you feel. I talked to you after Dime passed, and they did well, as you wanted them to, and most of all, they were successful, and they'll be legends for the rest of their lives. And I'm proud of you for being proud of them and pushing them forth. And I love you too, Jerry.
All right, so once again, we're sitting here with the legendary Ricky Lynn Gregg. We're talking about Vinnie Paul and the all too soon passing of just a legendary drummer, legendary rock star, someone that, you know, here in the state of Texas, it's weird for me, not weird, but just maybe ironic, being a fan of music and seeing someone so legendary and so bigger than life, you know, pass on to the next level. And then seeing all of the different people here in Texas who have been touched by him, either directly or indirectly, or musically, or as a person, or whatever it is. Just, it makes you so much closer to that legend.
Yes.
You know, like hearing the stories from you and all of the other old timers here in Texas that have stories to tell about Vinnie and Darrell and all of these, you know, people that are passing on too early. It just puts things in a whole different perspective for a fan.
Yeah.
And I guess we can thank the advent of social media for that.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
just having that connectability to someone that I only got to meet in very short passing. And by God, if I knew who he was, I probably would have picked his brain all night. You know, I probably would have made the wall.
Right. You know, he had a way. Vinnie, you know, Dime was like, man, you know, God, you know, let's jam, you know, whatever. And Vinnie was...
He was more collective.
Yeah. And he'd find that little gap and go, hey, let's come over here and break it up.
Yeah, he pulled you in.
Yeah, and he was, man, he was very smart. And not that Dime wasn't. I mean, look at the music they made.
Yeah,
you know?
incredible.
It's incredible music. And you know, Dime going the way he did. Tragically.
Yeah, it was tough.
But Vinnie at 54, just something, I don't know this, but something in my soul says, I'm with my brother now.
Yeah.
And I want to believe that. That's what I want to believe.
I think we all kind of don't mind. I think we all kind of wish we'd just go in our sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least there's some solace in that, I guess.
Yes.
You know?
And I haven't reached out to Jerry yet because I know
It's
that
probably too soon.
It is. And, you know, I called him the day after. See, I was going to call him I asked Vinnie, I said, call your father? Because he said, my dad doesn't even know yet. When I talked to him after Dime got killed. And he said, no, I don't know what to do. So I waited till the next morning. He picked up the phone, because caller ID, he says, I know Ricky. I said, what can I do? He says, nothing. At least I don't have to worry about him being on the road on that bus, because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Different towns. And then I went and saw him about a week later and just kind of hung out with him. You know, he was just a proud father that was just heartbroken. And so
and
I'm sure he's
our
heartbroken
hearts
now.
and prayers definitely go out to the Abbott family. I know his dad's still around. His mom's still living as well.
Mother passed away several years ago.
Yeah.
He still has aunts and uncles around the Abilene area.
Right. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the Abbott family and to the fans of the Abbott brothers.
Yes.
And the whole crew from Hell Yeah and all the other projects
Yeah.
that Vinnie's worked with. And, you know, we are definitely big fans of Vinnie and Dimebag. And
I want to tell you a quick story. I don't mean to butt in.
Sure.
But when Pantera said bang, 2 and 2, Dimebag and Vinnie came to my show at Cowboys in Arlington. It was packed. And I'm up there playing. I'm playing through a 112, 50-watt little amp, because 2 weeks before, all my stuff got stolen.
Right.
So they come to the front of the stage. The stage is this high, and I stopped the song. I said, "Get out of there!" So then, you know, Vinny's like, oh, "Okay, I get he's ready." And Dom looks at me and goes, "You're playing through that?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "But it's in every monitor." He goes, "Yeah, but you're playing through that." I said, "Yeah." So we turned everything as loud as we could get, and we played You Really Got Me, stuff that we'd played together before. The crowd erupted.
Oh, I can imagine.
Cowboys and Arlington, and I get fired because we turned from country to the hometown
to
heroes.
not country.
Yeah, to the hometown heroes, and that wasn't the first time that we'd gotten into it over having them in. Crystal Chandelier was one of them. But anyway, Dime got off stage after he jammed and told his guitar tech, he says, "Hail a cab, fill it full of amplifiers." And he brought me a double stack Randall with a 200-watt Randall stereo head.
So you replaced your stuff, basically.
Yeah, so I get out and they go, "Come here," and of course I'm like them, I'm lit. Excuse me, but I was lit, and I got pictures that I'll give you one. It's like,
I've seen them.
Yeah, and it's like they just give you this big stack of stuff, and I'm thinking, and it's 7 months before his incident.
Yeah. So you know, we couldn't do this show without getting your input and your memories with both of the guys.
Love. That's all they were. They were love. Everybody said those guys were love.
But we're going to try to pull this out of the emotion of loss and heartbreak and stuff like that. We do have a wonderful guest here on the 4th episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. And without any further ado, coming up right after this message is going to be a great one-on-one interview between two legends, in my opinion, Ricky Lynn Gregg and Red Leone. 70 years plus playing the steel guitar. Y'all ain't going to believe this.
Magic.
Don't go anywhere.
Hi, we're too good at
And thank you for tuning in to the ETX ROCKS Show.
Thank you, Boston. Got somebody very special here I'd like to introduce. His name is Red Leone. A lot of people may know him as Louise's father, but he's been known for decades for being one of the best steel guitarists out of Texas and abroad. Not only that, in 2017 he won the best steel guitar player of the year. Same year that I got to win my coveted award of being a pretty good guitar player. And Red, I'm glad to have you here on the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Thank you.
Red, put it there, buddy. I just like to have a little bit of that goodness and love spirit in my hand. I ain't shaking hands with you because I don't know you, because we do know each other.
We do.
You know, you're very famous. And you don't take any credit for it. You don't take any credit for how great of a steel guitar player you were. And I want to tell our audience that you paved the way for many steel guitar players in the state and this country, even Nashville. You know, the Franklin boys, and you taught them a thing or two. Although they changed the world a little bit, and they taught you a few things too. And I think that's what's fascinating about you, because you're 45 now?
Me?
Yeah, about 45, 50?
54.
54, yeah. See, it proves that you're never too old to learn.
That's right.
And as we were jamming a little earlier, we followed each other like twin brothers. But I got to know, you were born in Golden, Texas?
No, I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Home of the Louisiana Hayride.
1935.
Did you really? Did you ever have a chance to go see any of the shows I had?
Yeah.
Did you really?
I played it one time.
Did you really? Tell me and our audience some of the artists you saw.
Red Savine.
Red Savine.
Texas Tyler.
Texas Tyler.
What's that guy from Beaumont? Lefty Frizzell was
Lefty
there.
Frizzell, yes sir.
Well, it's hard to remember all of them. Fair and Young.
Oh yeah, Fair and Young. My gosh, that's amazing. My mother and 3 of my other brothers, I have 4. They catch a bus from Longview and go over there and see Hank.
Hank Williams, yeah.
And you know that was his last place he lived.
Will Pierce is popular there. He was
Love
there a
Will
long time at
Pierce.
Shadow's Cage.
Yeah, Will Pierce. Now, what artists did you work with when you worked the Municipal?
I think it was Fair and Young. I did a few shows with Fair and Young.
I love Fair and Young.
Back in those days when he was on the radio there, but I didn't do his radio shows because I had another band
I
he
see.
was with during that little radio show in
Right.
the mornings. But in the evenings, they didn't play the nightclubs then. They'd go out to schools, and
Really?
auditoriums and sometime during the week. And I think I did about 4 schools with him, but
Is
I
that
was
right?
going to school too, and my dad was really particular about how late I stayed up at night because he wanted me to be smart.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes he said, "Boy, don't get smart."
Sometimes it's best to be stupid, you know what I mean? Oh, my God. But in your days of Shreveport, having the Municipal Auditorium, home of the Louisiana Hayride, when you were younger, did you have your eye on that prize?
Oh yes.
Oh man, and that's
I lived about 65 miles south of there, and
Okay.
we would get it on the radio.
on the radio. That's right.
And
Saturday
sometimes we
nights.
was able to go to the shows.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. You see, for me, growing up, I wanted to play Hirsch Memorial Coliseum. Now, Hirsch took Municipal's place somewhat back in my day. And when I finally got to play Hirsch Memorial Coliseum, you remember the sections they had in there? It held about 20,000
I never went there.
Well, you're lucky. It's a good place, though. I got to play one section, and I remember telling the audience, I said, I've always wanted to play at Hirsch Memorial Coliseum, but I didn't realize I was going to play one section, which held probably, 200 people or so, but it was a blast. And out of Shreveport, where did that lead you? You played the Louisiana Hayride. Did you get notoriety from being a great steel player and people saw you and picked you up and carried you on, or did you pave your own way?
No, I had cousins that had moved to Houston early, and there were a couple of them were pretty good musicians. In fact, if you ever heard of Joey Long,
Joey Long.
the night I graduated from school, Joey Long and a couple of guys in the band was there, and I went to Houston with them that night after my party. But I had played the summer before in Houston with those guys.
Yeah.
And then Houston at that time didn't have many steel players, so when I got down there, there was kind of going on a little bidding for them.
Well, you know what?
Oh, my head started getting big.
And your pocketbook probably started getting thicker too.
No, I stayed with who brought me.
You know what? An ounce of loyalty outweighs a pound of knowledge. And I admire you for that, because, nowadays things are getting tough around clubs and places, venues. It's all about the almighty dollar. And then it dwindles down to the player. And I've kind of been one of those guys myself. I took a little less so I could get the gig more often. And been cussed about it.
Joey kind of held it over because I was living with him in his apartment. So he said,
Oh, Lord.
you on these other bands, you go live
You go
somewhere else.
somewhere else. There you go. Well, did you ever have a moment in your time, because you are so dead-gum good to this day, did you ever have a moment where you thought, I'm going to go find me a real job, like work at General Motors factory, or or Eastman Kodak like we have here. Did you ever have that moment?
No, I really didn't. I was burning up with desire to make that happen, my music career.
Yeah.
I wanted to be one of the best, and I was learning all the time,
Right.
and all the, up until the pedals came out, and then I got behind then because I didn't
Right.
have a pedal steel
Well,
for
that was
years.
evolution. Right.
I even made my own pedals.
Right. You know, I got a chance to meet Shot Jackson.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and Buddy, remember they used to
Yeah.
have a thing called Show
Emmons, yeah.
Buddy Emmons, with Dave Musgrave, who had a little store here in town. His daughter's doing quite well right now. And they were kind of, you know, they had a reason to have a little ego, but they always said, son, if you don't change, the world's going to change with you. And you changed because you started out with, and I need to get the terminology from you. I know there's lap steels, like Asleep at the Wheel, they have one that has no pedals,
Mm-hmm.
and they play the ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
You started with something similar and went on to the Hawaiian steel. Tell me the difference, what you started out on, and then how you progressed into the Hawaiian steel.
Well, my folks was all, my dad was a good fiddle player, and he also played Hawaiian. He'd tune a guitar, a regular guitar.
Okay.
He'd tune it in G or E, and he would use a knife or something for a
Is-
slide.
Okay.
And that's how I got started fooling with it.
Fascinating.
And they call it dobro nowadays.
Well,
you know.
right.
But in 1949, Liam McCullough came out with a panhandle. I think it's 49. Came out with a panhandle rag. Oh, I like that song.
Panhandle rag.
So, but the station in Shreveport used it for a bumper.
Ah.
But
So
they
you got
didn't
your
play the
little
whole song all the time, so it took me about a month to learn it.
bit.
My dad
And you
heard
learned
me.
on one of those.
He
what
heard
they
me.
call lap
He heard me
steel?
messing around with one of them old guitars. He said, "Son, you
On your
learn that.
guitar.
You learn to play a panhandle rag, and I'll get you a real electric Hawaiian guitar."
A real electric Hawaiian guitar. And let me say this to our viewers. That is a piece of wood.
Is it loud? Yeah.
It's just a lap piece of wood with either on one stick or four, and you get no pedals. And when you work a steel, you use your legs and your feet of a nowadays steel.
That one was only just a hand.
This is just hand, and you had
Yeah.
to make them hands turn,
Yeah.
and know when to hit those notes.
It'll
To
jump
me,
around,
it is
yeah.
it's the eighth wonder of the world, and you had to find that and started with a guitar. And let that be a lesson to you, future dobro players. Get your guitar, get the strings about that far off the neck, tune it. What are some of the tunings?
G. The only ones I knew of was G and E.
G and
Most
E.
guys use G.
G, and like that's the G, just a G
Just
chord.
tune it
Open
in G. You drop
or
your
open E.
You drop your E down to what is it? Drop your E. I can't
We need
even
to listen
think.
here, folks. Listen up.
What's that note?
Well, that would be a B. That'd
D.
be on-
D. You drop it to D, and then it's like Okay, I can't
You know,
tell you in terminology.
let them
but
figure it out on their own.
Yeah,
You know, because I'm telling you what.
If you got any kind of ear at all, then you'll figure it out if you're interested.
Friends, you're listening to history and how things like dobros, everybody thinks it goes back to a dobro. No. It didn't go back to a lap steel. No, it goes back to a guitar.
Tuned that way.
Tuned that way and the strings heightened so you're able to make those beautiful tones and passing notes. Oh man, you got more great passing tones. And let's go to the steel now. Now you've gotten past the lap steel. Lap steel, if you want to hear some lap steel, go to Asleep at the Wheel. That's where you'll hear it.
I had a double neck Fender that had no pedals.
Oh my
And
God.
I always wanted to stand up. I see those guys standing up. And then after I had it for a while, I was ready to sit down.
Well, right, without the pedals.
Yeah.
Did it have the knee?
No, it didn't have nothing. Just,
So
just a
you-
volume pedal and.
So would you tune that in G and E, or would you tune that
No,
in C6?
I'd had it tuned in E and C6.
E and C6.
Because
yes.
with the single neck lap steel, I
Right.
use a C6.
Okay. These are important things. This is a fascinating interview because it's a clinic.
Jerry Bird was my inspiration on the C6.
And Jerry Bird was in your life how? Was he a friend of yours?
Oh
Did he
no,
play-
I
make
never
records?
met it. He was in Nashville.
Okay. Okay.
And I never knew him.
Which leads me to, now you're with a steel. You got pedals.
Yes,
You got. When I'm doing this, folks, they hit the foot and then they do the leg and hold the tongue over here. It is not easy.
Push this way and that way, and push
this
this way
way.
and
I'm
that
tell you what,
way.
you better have some wiggle in your wobble because you're gonna have to use
That's
it.
right.
And but you started your own Texas sound because, as we've talked in the past, we Texans tend to do things a little different our way. And you started out that way because you weren't really into the tuning types of Nashville. Now, when you started in Texas, what type of tuning and what kind of foot and leg maneuvers did you use that made you Texas, that made you stand alone?
Well, up until 91 or 92, I believe it was, I played a little Fender 400 with 8 strings on it and had 4 pedals. I wound up putting a knee lever on it, I think it's 2 of them, but my own. I was a carpenter and pretty
Right, so
good
you did it
engineer.
yourself.
Yeah, and then I seen the opportunity to get this steel. It was a double neck, and then I started embracing the E9 tuning because I heard guys playing pretty stuff
Right.
on it.
And that was coming out of
Nashville then. And we had a few local guys that was pretty well getting into it that way, not just pedal pushers.
Right, you pedal pushers, yeah.
Yeah.
I got you.
And my daughter used to tell me, "Papa, go to bed." her bedroom was
Louise did?
right next to where I was set up. And I'd set up at night working on
Oh,
that
yeah.
thing.
You know, you got to hit enough bad notes to hit the right ones. Is that right?
Right. So what I did, I had to keep my familiar tuning because I had a double neck now. So I tuned one neck into C6, my old original
Okay.
way, but I had 2 extra strings. At one time, I left them off of that little string and the biggest one. I didn't put them on there
Yeah.
because they was in my way. I didn't know what to do with them.
Right.
And then as I progressed with that and with the E9,
Right.
then I added those 2 back on, and that's why I got a fistful of strings on there today.
Hey, man, you and the ability. Red, now that you're got a double neck, you're tuning in C6 and E.
Mm-hmm.
E what?
C6 and E9.
E9. E9, that's important, E9. As to wrap this up about our clinic about steel and the history of your history, how important is it to be in perfect tune with the band?
Oh, it's real important because, for one thing, I play by ear, and I got a little fudging I can do if it's out
Yeah.
a little bit, but I
Right.
only so much.
Oh,
So it needs to be as close as it possibly
Right.
could get it, within 2 cents. They call it
Sure.
on that little meter.
oh, exactly, exactly. I've worked with a steel player before that he would just stop playing. So you'd look around at him and he'd go. And that meant tell the band to tune.
I'm out of tune.
And you know, it's easy for guitar players to get out of tune and work through it. Bass players can kill you. Drummers, their drums can be out of tune, but steel, it is very important, and you just confirmed it.
20 strings on there
20
too.
strings got to be in tune. Red, something I admire about you so much, and that is your love for your family. And we've talked about Louise and how much of a jewel she is to you. She's your daughter. But I've noticed she's a jewel to so many others, like Boston, his family, their family together, and their friends. And that had to start with you. How important was it for you, as opposed to me, who I gave up my family, with the exception of my mother and father, I wasn't secure with how they would react to my music or my career. But you put your family first. That was very important to you. And could you explain to me, someone who did it completely different, could you explain to me how important that was?
Well, for a long time in my life, I did a lot of things I'm not proud of, and had a life that wasn't really that. Well, how do you want to say it? proper in a sense, and I didn't know the Lord then either.
Praise God.
So that's a big thing. But when I met Louise's mother, I was still at that era of life. I didn't know the Lord, and I still played, but I was working. I had my own company going, and I was working pretty much, and I didn't need to play. But on weekends, sometimes I'd take jobs on weekends. But at that, and Louise was big enough then. I'm sorry, my oldest daughter was big enough then to go with us. So I didn't play any place. I never played a place I could not bring my family in after they got big enough to go with me. And I just quit playing at clubs, and nothing holding anything against them, but
Well, they are what they are.
a venue to take my family with me. It's always been real important. So going on up as she grew up, that's what she grew up with, that kind of music and the venues that we use. And all my children, my 3 children that was raised when I was playing and going with me to those venues.
Amazing.
But I always put my family and my wife ahead of the music. And in order to do that, I had to put God first.
Amen.
And that's when it changed.
When you were a child, you did things childishly.
That's right.
But when you became a man and a father, you acted like a man and a father.
Yeah.
I want to commend you because when I came along, we played bars.
Yeah.
And you know, my family wouldn't come see me. I mean, my cousins would. But you know, my mother never forsake me. She would walk into the dingiest bar in town and get the front row seat, bottles flying across her head, honestly. And she'd be screaming, "Hit anybody, but don't hit my youngin'." And then they'd escort her backstage. She never let me down. But I let my family down, my daughter, because I'd ran it trying to get a major record deal. When she was born, you know, it was a choice that I had to make. And, you know, her mother didn't make it easy for me. And I love her to death. She's a mighty fine woman, as my daughter is. And she raised her quite well. And I could not make the decision you made. And I know other men that didn't. But I blush because you said the Lord. And when you found the Lord, all those other places went away. And I want to tell you, I knew the Lord. But until I had my episode with my heart, did I begin to be with the Lord. And I've done a couple of venues. Well, I've only done one where it was a bar, and I got up there sober and said, "I can't do this. They're drunk, and I ain't." But to put your family first, that's beautiful, and it's a great story. I ran at every opportunity. Even when I got there, it didn't come to fruition. But you got your lovely daughter here. You're taking care of your wife. How's your wife doing?
She's doing real good. May be able to bring her home this week. We don't know for sure yet.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, you know.
But I didn't have the difficult decisions to make that you did, because I always had a job, and music was not my front, you know.
Right.
Thing I was desiring to get into. But I missed Branson. I didn't get to go.
Well, you didn't miss much.
I had an opportunity, but I didn't take it.
I played Branson quite a few times. I was on tour with George Jones for 8 years.
Yeah.
And, it's hard getting in and it's hard getting out, but once you got there, they got you. But I've got to say this. When you have your family on the road with you, and, you know, Mo Bandy and what's his partner's name? Joe Stampley always involved his family. Tony, his son, his lovely daughter, Sherry. They were always part of his business. And as he got older, they began to take over, and Tony became an artist and a great songwriter. And I always thought that was very beautiful. And so to you, sir, I commend you in putting God first. You have helped me with my spirituality, because you know it was only a year ago I knew Jesus, but I wasn't with him until he put me to sleep and woke me up. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment
Thank you.
and your family.
Thank you. I thank my family too for putting up with me.
I'm sure it wasn't hard. Red, another interesting fact about you is your military career. And tell us what part of the military that you were in.
I was in the Army. I got drafted in 1958. I went in March. Got drafted. Went in March. Elvis went in February. We were
Right?
both at Fort Hood.
Come on.
Yeah, I got to see him one time, but I've never met him.
Was he too dang good looking to be an Army man?
No, he just looked like everybody else out there. When you look, unless you get him up close, you couldn't tell it was Elvis. He had fatigues on just like anybody else, and he did soldier stuff.
Did he really?
He sure did. He didn't do any privilege
I'm going to
stuff.
throw this in because I got a good question, but my co-manager during my height of my career was Lamar Fike. Lamar Fike was part of the Memphis Mafia. You know, he had 10 guys, you know, Red, and he had Marty Lacker and all those guys. So I heard a lot about Elvis.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you if you so much would divulge to our #1 show here right now. Here, got any good Elvis stories you can lay on me?
I only got one, really. I mean, when I was
One
at,
you can tell.
yeah, Fort Hood. Oh, I can tell any of them because at Fort Hood, when I was in basic, he was stationed across the street from me.
Okay.
And they had the old shotgun type of barracks, and I was in a more of a modern building. We had 3 floors, and I was on the 2nd floor.
Okay.
One weekend, they had some girls, I don't know if it was college or high school or what, they were coming out with a photographer. They was taking photographs of the soldiers, and they had somebody do the paperwork, you know, before computer.
Right. So they were invited on.
Yeah, they came with a photographer.
Photographer.
Okay, that day, particular day was a Saturday. Elvis was on detail, KP detail, and he was on outside garbage
Visible.
can cleaning all that up. Well, the girls went into at lunchtime. They got
Right.
invited to go eat first, right?
Okay.
And we were still waiting in our barracks for our time to go.
Right.
And we heard all this yelling going on because it was nice, and we had the windows up, went to the window. Look, those girls was running over across the street over there, and I could see the mess open the door. They got these 2 guys to pull them inside and close the door. Then they started going around closing the windows. And
Trying to
those
keep them
girls
out
were
or keep them in.
trying to keep them girls.
I know.
They were climbing the walls to see in the window.
My
you know?
goodness.
They finally got them back over. And
Took
they
an
all-
army to do it.
And the only other time I seen him was in Germany.
Yeah. You went to Germany.
Yeah, they were out on some testing for their mortar platoons, and
Okay.
he was with the armored outfit. It had the mortars and the artillery pieces and tanks.
Wow.
No, they had tanks and mortars. That's right, because I was with the artillery. But they needed an umpire team to go test them.
Sure.
And to see if they was really doing the thing by the book.
Right.
So they let us have a Jeep with a white flag on
Sure.
it, and you put a white armband and a
Sure.
band around your hat so they know you was umpires,
Right.
and you didn't have to go hide and get technical like, you know, the rest of them had to be
Right.
camouflaged.
Sure.
But that Saturday we had a chance to go out. We got bored. A friend of mine got bored, so we asked our lieutenant in charge of us, said, "Can we take a Jeep out and go look around?" And Cerisi was pretty much a pest. He pested people. You know, he was
Right.
a pester.
Right.
Said,
Keep
"Lieutenant,
down.
says, go on, get out of my hair."
Right.
So we took Jeep, took off running through the bushes out there, and we come up on this unit. Guys didn't have to be tactical that day, so they would camouflage.
Right.
So they was cleaning their vehicles, and
Yeah.
there was a guy, 2 guys working on a Jeep. And I didn't notice at first, but Cerise had bought a brand new field jacket, and he hadn't put his stripes on yet. But he had his battalion insignia on
Right.
each flap and
Right.
on his hat. But from a distance,
Dead giveaway.
that distance away from when you seen him, you knew he wasn't a sergeant or
Right.
anything, but he just looked like looked like an officer.
Sure.
As we drove up close to him, somebody called attention and they turned around and saluted us. So, but Cerise kind of slumped down in his seat there, you know,
Right.
and he just gave him a salute back, and
Sure.
then they went on back. And he turned around again and said, "Hey, man, stop." I said, "I can't, there's a 2.5 deuces behind us, and that road wasn't big enough
Right, to go
to
around.
trail."
Yeah.
And he said, "That's Elvis back there." I said, "Oh man," I said, "How you know?" He said, "I recognize those markings on the bumper." So we went back and told the guys about Elvis. Them guys saluting us.
Right, they
saluting
slipped y'all right, yeah. Elvis knew better, didn't he?
Yeah, our real officer asked Teresa, "You like being a private?"
That's
Teresa said,
fascinating.
"No, why?" He said, "If you don't, in the morning, if you don't have that stripes of that jacket, I'm gonna bust you down to a private."
I don't care if you are Elvis Presley.
That's right.
Well, let me lead into this.
Okay.
And that is a great Elvis story that I can add to my collection because
Okay.
running around with Lamar, you heard every dirty thing that he
Yeah.
ever did, like smoke a cigarette or whatever. But in the last 20 years, and rightfully so, you've been slowing down.
Yeah.
But one thing you haven't lost are your chops. You and I sat down and played two songs and followed each other, played the guitar rag and followed each other like
Been doing it for a while. Yeah.
we had ropes around us or something. But in the last 20 years, you've slowed down. You begin to do venues where you could only take your family. That's a beautiful story there. But in the last 20 years, have you missed getting those calls going, "Hey, Red, we need you Friday and Saturday"? Or do you enjoy more now the fact that they say, "Hey, Red, come on over. We're just having to get together, no pressure"?
Well, the strangest thing that's happened in East Texas in the last 20 to 25 years is that there wasn't any steel guitar players up here that much. So
None.
bands got used to not having a steel guitar.
Exactly.
So when I came up, there's very few groups that wanted me with them. And there was some good musicians,
Yeah.
and when one of them passed away and the other moved to Arkansas, so I didn't have the backup that I liked
Sure.
anymore. And the guys in the bands that's formed now,
Mhm.
they don't really care about a steel guitar player playing with them, and most of them play the club, so that cuts me out anyway.
Right.
So I sit home a lot. On Saturday nights, I'm thinking sometime I ought to be out picking. Here's a 2017 steel guitarist of the year sitting home.
You know what? I'm going to make a proposal to you right here, live. As long as Boss Chris says it's okay. I'd like for me and you and maybe another person or another person playing two different instruments. And right here in this studio, I'd like to do 20-minute segment of some of the good old stuff, some of the Webb Pierce stuff, some of the stuff that started steel guitar off, and get up into that era of the 70s when the steel guitar was it. And let's sing some songs. Let's keep it for the archives, for the world to see 100 years from now. Would you do that with me? It would be my pleasure, Red.
Be my pleasure too.
Red, doggone, we need to do this again sometime.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily have to do it on podcast, but let's do it if we can.
Have fun.
Like right now. Would you mind playing a couple songs with me?
I don't mind at all.
I got a couple in mind. I got a good old Merle Haggard song, and I've got remember Alfred Brimley?
Yeah.
He wrote a good old song called I'll Fly
I'll
Away.
fly away.
You want to do it with me?
Sure will.
Come on, let's get on.
Let's do it.
All
Hit
right.
it, Red. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, the day I started loving you again, then I'm right back with my pretty always been. I got hold of you just long enough to let my heart down. Red Leone, take it, my friend. Oh boy. Red Leone. What a fool I was to think I could get by. With only these few million tears that I cried. How did I know that the worst was yet to come? And that prime time for me just begun. Now today I'm starting loving you again. And I'm right by you where I've been always been. I got over you just long enough to let my poor heart mend. And now today I started loving you again. Play us out, Rick. Not bad for a couple of rookies that we are. Good job, buddy. By the way, this ain't rehearsed. We just picked it up and went with it. We went through a couple of things a little early, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what you call soul meets soul, muse meets muse. And I'm so glad to be with him and knowing that his family, Louise's father, Boston Chris's father-in-law, and your lovely wife, she's recovering.
Yep.
And she's going to recover because you believe in Jesus, she does too, and this whole family does. So let's do one for the Lord.
Okay.
In G. Well, that's some glad morning when this life is over. I'll fly away to die, I do by and by. I'll find a way. 'Cause when I die, I do by and by. I'll find a way. How about it, friend? Hey. Put it there, Red.
Man, I'm sure glad I met you. I'll get to pick a little
Wait
bit.
a minute,
maybe
I'm
every
so
once in a
glad I
while.
met you. And I'm going to try to talk Louise and Boston Chris in something special. And that's all I can promise y'all. Might be right back here. But I want to do some more stuff with you because this art form is slowly fading away. And Red was right. There were no steel guitar players around here. The steel player guitar I had to come out of Tulsa. And of course he ended up in Brooks and Dunn. But I got a record deal too. But this guy's the real deal. I want everybody to rewatch this because there's a lot to learn from the things that the questions he answered. And Red, fantastic. Red, good having you here. We'll do it again. But stay tuned because we'll be right back with Ask Ricky.
All right, so we're back for our question segment, Ask Ricky, which is a little bit different than Act Risky. I'm just wanting to put that out there. And we do have a studio audience for the very first time today.
Don't we though?
Yeah.
And guess what? Alan and I graduated from high school together, and he won this thing legit straight
Yeah.
up. And P. No, that's not her name.
Well, it is her
Rhonda
name,
P.
but it's Rhonda
But
P.
see, I was trying to think of something funny because Rhonda P and I, we always
You
kind of,
definitely failed.
we monkey around.
He's a failure. Just want that to be known.
Yes, Rhonda P.
But-
You want to start that all over?
No, that was good.
Okay.
It shows who you really are, Ricky Lynn Gregg.
Well, I really am not all that, but I am.
But yeah, we do have a studio audience. We decided to put a contest out a couple weeks ago and give away a couple of seats here in the living room of the ETX ROCKS living
Are we
room.
going to do more of that, by the way?
I think this has gone well. You guys having a good time?
Yeah.
Well, we'll definitely do it again. then.
I think it ups our kind of our you know.
Well, it gives us someone to talk to other than just a
Yeah,
Samsung
yeah,
S9
yeah.
Plus.
Yeah. And in the future, if people want to come from out of state, just let us know,
Yeah.
and then we can make arrangements.
Yeah, because we'll have to get all of our, visas and
Yeah.
MasterCards,
Right.
green cards,
Yes.
all that stuff. Don't bring any fruit over state lines.
No, please.
It's bad for you.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And you'll get in trouble.
You could.
So,
really
do you have a
could.
question for me?
I don't know. See, what I planned on doing was just kind of keep acting a fool until I come up with a question for you.
Oh, okay. Well, then I have one for you.
Well, then you go first.
Okay.
All right.
Your hair's getting long.
Yeah, so is yours.
Well,
I just want to be like you, man.
but did you notice I shaved my beard?
Yeah.
Hey.
I don't blame you for that, though. You can only have two glorious beards on camera at one time.
Right. Well, I kind of been.
They don't make the
rough look.
technology for all that facial
Exactly.
hair,
But I did want to notice.
You did want to notice?
I did want to point out. Excuse me, as I noticed, your hair's getting long.
Yeah.
And Louise was combing it. It was
Yeah.
looking all pretty and stuff.
She's my makeup and hair girl.
Are you using any kind of special hair products?
I am.
What would it be?
Air.
It's Louise, is what it is.
It's all Louise.
It's Louise.
She takes good care of me. It's true.
It's Louise.
She makes me feel like a star.
All right, the real question number one, because I got another question for
All right.
you. I want to congratulate you
All right.
for being a nominee for the radio host of the year. Did I
Thank
get
you.
that right?
Thank you. Yes.
What
I
do you
guess
think about
it's. Thank y'all.
that? Wow, man.
This is our second nominee, second different award show, so it's very humbling. As you know, we started under an oak tree with this show.
Wow.
I say that all the time. We started the show legitimately under an oak tree with a smartphone between two people talking. That's how we started the show. And so here we are in 2018, and in February we were nominated for Internet Radio DJ of the Year through Texas Regional Radio Music Awards, which is a big thing here in Texas. And then just found out we were nominated for I guess it's Radio DJ / Media Personality of the Year.
Excellent.
of the ETX Music Awards, and hopefully we'll get the trifecta. We're going to find out in a couple of days whether we've been nominated for a Texas Country Music Award as well. So
Look,
from Under an Oak Tree to that is pretty humbling.
And may I say to you, and I know this for a fact, I saw him when he just woke up. This man is tireless, and he is self-motivated. And if there is any motivation, it's the music and mainly the artists and what they bring to the table. And if it's anything short of excellence, he doesn't deal with it. This guy right here earns every award because he works that hard.
Thank you.
I never met anybody that works harder than him.
Well, the weird thing is there's really not a category of award out there for podcaster of the year. So it's funny.
Well, then we got to work on that.
Well, I just think it's pretty cool that we're being mentioned in internet radio and radio personality and things that we aren't exactly that, but people want to put us in somewhere because I guess we're making a difference, you know. So that's really neat. I'll be honest.
It has to be.
You know.
It has to be. It has to be. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, man. So my first question for Ricky. I still don't have a question, so I'm just gonna try to come up with something. I know more about you than you know about you, I think, sometimes.
Yes, you do. I forget a lot.
You know, watching back your interview with, or thinking back to the interview you did with Red Leone today on the show, you guys talked a lot about the technical aspects of tuning and
Yes.
all of that within guitars and stuff like that. What was that like for you coming up as a new musician? Just the simplistic value of tuning that a lot of younger artists out there may not care about as much as they should.
Okay. When I first started, 15 years old, man, I'm in a bar downtown Longview, Papa
Right.
TJ's. $25 a night, man. I was rich.
Yeah.
But it was like we all hit a chord, and we were 3-piece, so you'd go, could you give me an A? And you'd hit that A, and I learned to tune to a string. And when those strings, kind of like Red and I are going to do, we're going to tune, we're going to find a string and tune to it. And it took me a while, and so we called it chorus. Chorus means it gets out of tune a little bit and warbles back into it.
Yeah.
Makes that chorus sound. And we were young and put up with it. I went from there to Savvy, and we had the hallowed strobe tuner. Have you ever heard of a strobe tuner? Okay, it's about this tall, about this wide. You remember strobe tuner, buddy? And it oscillates like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, what you got to do is you got to get all 6 of those oscillations
Right in line.
in line.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't want to tune.
Yeah.
I'll tune one string and tune to it. No, it took you forever,
One
and
thing-
everybody be lying.
One thing
over
you
it.
mentioned earlier is the older you got, the more important it was for it to be in
Exactly.
tune.
Oh, when I reached 40, it was like, whoa, I got to tune.
Yeah.
I got to be in tune, and it's just because of some of the chords I make up.
Is it a music thing or a hearing thing?
To me, it's a music thing,
Okay.
and subsequently a hearing thing, because I'll play what I name dyads. I'll take one string with another, and that's my chord, and it mixes with what other guitar players playing. It's different, or keyboard player, so it blends. I try not to play the same chord they're playing. I try to play an inversion, and if that inversion's out of tune, it warbles.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the best way to put it. So we went to the strobe tuners to where all of a sudden one day they had pedal tuners. And of course, nobody had any money, and they cost $200.
Awesome.
So you got one, and it broke in about 6 months. And then let's just jump forward. Now we've got them where you clip, like I do now, clip it on. And if I'm going to do a lot of jumping around, which I don't do anymore, I would Velcro it on there.
Yeah.
And like going to Europe, I take 3 of them over there, break 2, and come back with 1. But they've got it down now where tuning's you can never be out.
Yeah, you
By
can
phone
even do it
apps.
through apps now.
You got phone
yeah.
apps.
It's crazy.
But you're right about being older, and I really realized this through a joke. It was like, when you're young, you don't really care about when you're in tune, but when you get 50, everybody's got to be in tune.
Yeah.
And it all has to do with listening to music all those years and not hearing that warble. It just
Yeah.
makes better music.
All right, so once again, this is Ricky Lynn Gregg, episode number 4, with Red Leone a little bit earlier in the show. I got one question to Ricky. We'll let him have 2 this week, and maybe next month I'll ask 2 and he'll ask 1, or however that works. But we don't want to go too long on the show. We're really excited to have Red Leone here, just to see Ricky and Red, collaborate and talk, and all those years of experience all here in the same room was really neat from a music fan standpoint. I hope you guys enjoyed that out there. Comment down below who you would like to see as a guest on a future episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. And if you have a question that you would like for us to ask Ricky on a future episode of the show. Of course, we're going to release these shows every second Saturday?
Second Saturday.
We're going to release these shows every second Saturday of the month. So set your calendars for that. Episode 5 will be in August. We're already in August almost, Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy stuff. We're hoping to get Heather Little down for that. That'll be a fun little show.
Oh, yeah.
I know Ricky's a big fan of Heather's.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
August, having a big birthday bash, a field party.
Uh-oh.
It's for TD Cares. It's an organization. We're going to have bands. Of course, I'm going to invite you all if I haven't already. It's fun.
Cool.
It's going to be fun.
So look that up, guys. TD Cares. I know they're, Google it. I know they're out there.
Yeah.
And that's an organization near and dear to Ricky's heart. But yeah, cool stuff. For Ricky Lynn Gregg, I'm Boston Chris, and this has been episode 4 of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. Thank you all for tuning in.
From the unknown to the stars, from the couch to the car, from the unheralded and the unheard, to the legends and beyond, it's where we all belong. Yes, this is where it all starts. From every genre, from every plane, this is where the music's played. So tune right in, won't you bring a friend? This is where it all begins. Welcome to the show, let the music flow of every style and creed. And you can bet your socks that ETX